Hello, friends. It's a delight to be here with Rabbi Peter J. Rubinstein, who's the Director of Jewish Community and Bronfman Center for Jewish Life at the 92nd Street Y. In this capacity, he oversees Jewish content and programming within the Bronfman Center, collaborates with staff throughout the institution on innovative programs related to Jewish themes, and forges new collaborations with faith leaders both within and beyond the Jewish community. He is involved with many other institutions and facets of American Jewish life. Rabbi, thank you for taking time to talk.
It's great being with you. I hope you're well.
Thank you. So who is a religious Jew? What does it mean to be a religious Jew?
Well, Shmuly, it's a fascinating question to me after having been in congregational work for 45, 50 years, because very often when you ask somebody, especially those that we would consider on the liberal wing of Jewish life, you ask, are you Jewish? They will very often say, well, yes, I'm Jewish, but I'm not religious. And I've always been fascinated by that. So now that when I have people in intimate groups and classes and so on, I ask them what they mean when they say what they think of as a religious Jew. And intuitively, I know what they mean, and they'll go through it. They'll say, and what they're going to describe, those are the people that keep the laws, that keep kosher, that keep Shabbat, that just wear, have black hats and payas and beards and shtetls, and I'm thinking to myself, so therefore, to be a religious Jew is to be ritually observant. And they basically say, yes, that's true. What if that person does what, in fact, there are stories that I know, in fact, happened, that somebody gave a lecture at a synagogue, actually in New Jersey, where I think your wife's family's from. And the lesson was that it's okay not to pay your income taxes if, in fact, you're giving the money you're saving to Jewish charities. Or in Israel, during this pandemic that we're in, the rabbis were saying, we can go to synagogue and we can gather without social distancing, because if you give to the Kupa Ha'ir, to our fund, you'll get blessings that'll keep you safe. I said, so is that religious? And they said, no, it's not religious. It's not right. So I said, so what else does it mean to be a Jew, a religious Jew? And when you start to push people on that, they begin to talk about matters of ethics and Jewish principles, about justice, about caring for the poor and the sick and the homeless and the immigrant, and being honest and business. And when they begin to redefine it, I said, so the fact that you may not be keeping Shomer Shabbat or Shomer Kashrut is not necessarily the definition for you of what it means to be religious, because doing that doesn't alleviate the fact of alleviate guilt if you're not behaving well as a Jew. And they understand, religious does not mean that kind of ritual observance. And when I point out the difference between ritual observance and being religious, I said, people can be described as ritually observant, but not necessarily, keeping Jewish values and ethics.
So how do you think of spirituality in all of this? In the realm of, the other most common answer to that question of I'm a Jew but not religious is I'm spiritual, not religious.
Right. Yeah, and usually my answer to that is, so what do you mean by spirituality? And it's fascinating to me, because very often, when people are saying that, they say, well, I don't believe, what they're trying to say is, I don't believe in God, right? But nevertheless, I believe in something. And what that something is, they believe in nature, they believe in, forces, they believe in origins and so on, but not necessarily believe in God. And when I push them on the God they don't believe in, right? What is the God you don't believe in? They will give me a definition that I will say to them, well, I don't believe in that God either. In other words, they'll say, oh, a God who's determining that I'm going to live or die in the coming year according to how I'm behaving. Or a God that if I pray to is going to, cure my illness, and if he doesn't, then that God is not going to exist. Or the God that I'm going to make a bargain with, right? If I get better, I'll go to shul, right, for a month. They don't want to go too much further than a month. So what spiritual means is that they're trying to find some way. They know there's more to them, to life than themselves. and they know that there's a limit to what they can control, but they don't want to necessarily talk about God. So when I ask them, those spiritual people, what happens during the silent prayer in synagogue, right? What do you do? I said, do you read the silent prayer, the words on page? They say no. I said, so what do you do? They said, well, I think of my family, and I have some memories, and I, pray for, my well-being and for, the well-being of my kids. Those are the things I said, and do you think God has anything to do with that? They say, well, maybe, but then when they begin to think of it, they allow themselves to actually take on a whole new definition and configuration of what God can mean without the old man with a beard. But spiritual means I'm not willing to accept God, but I'm defining God differently.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you so much, Rabbi Peter Rubinstein, and continue your wonderful work.
Well, listen, thank you for having me, and come visit.
Thank you.